Bronny James isn't just failing to look like an NBA player. Statistically, he has been one of the absolute worst on the court. But hold on, because the private chatter between legitimate NBA stars has just exposed what the league really thinks about the heir to the throne, and trust me, it is not the PR fairy tale LeBron James wants you to hear. The leaked sentiments from these alleged conversations are about to flip the script on the James legacy. The defenders. Let's kick this off with the one guy who treats silence like a deadly allergy, the outspoken Draymond Green. The four-time champ and Golden State enforcer has basically appointed himself Bronny's bodyguard, and he is taking no prisoners. On the Draymond Green show, he dropped some heavy insights that slice right through the insane hysteria surrounding the controversial 55th pick of the 2024 draft. Here is why Draymond Green's take actually matters. He has lived this exact nightmare. Drafted 35th in 2012, Green knows the flavor of disrespect, the doubts, and the feeling of everyone wondering if you're just a glorified mascot. So when he hypes up Bronny, he isn't just kissing the ring of his Olympic buddy LeBron James, he is projecting his own underdog story onto the kid. Back in April 2024, before Adam Silver even called Bronny's name, Draymond Green was already placing massive bets. He claimed Bronny would end up a better pro than half the lottery picks, citing athleticism and pure IQ. You don't put your reputation on the line like that for a guy averaging 4.8 points at USC unless you really see something. But the spice level increased during the Warriors-Lakers preseason game in October 2024. Draymond Green didn't just wave from the bench, he pulled the young prince aside for a necessary and harsh reality check. He told him straight up, if you're going to fail, fail on your own terms, because right now, you look like you forgot how to play basketball. That isn't coddling a Nepo baby, that is raw mentorship from a vet watching a talented kid paralyzed by the weight of his own last name. Draymond Green sees Bronny hesitating and playing terrified, and he's screaming at him to snap out of it. Then Draymond Green decided to fight the entire media industrial complex. In March 2025, after LeBron James got into it with Stephen A. Smith, Green absolutely lost it, declaring he had zero respect for Smith publicly criticizing a black father raising a successful son. By this point, it wasn't about hoops. Draymond Green drew a line in the sand, claiming the criticism had crossed into personal attacks. And honestly, he had a point. Since when do we dissect a late second-round pick like he's the second coming of Michael Jordan? Draymond Green's argument is simple. Bronny has the tools to be a solid backup point guard, which is all you expect from a 55th pick. He believes the kid has the DNA and the brain to be a rotational piece, not a superstar. But Draymond Green isn't the only heavy hitter defending the throne from the shadows behind the scenes. Enter Paul George, the 9-time All-Star who just took his talents to the Philadelphia 76ers. On Podcast P, George dropped one of the most surprisingly logical defenses of Bronny you will ever hear. He claims when he watches Bronny, he sees a kid making the right reads, capable of being elite, noting that the hate is unfair because literally nobody starts out perfect. Really think about what Paul George is actually saying here. He has studied Bronny enough to grade his decision-making, his instincts, and his defensive upside. And as a guy with all NBA nods and Olympic gold who has seen everything, Paul George sees something the casual haters definitely miss. He sees a grinder who understands the game, skipping the highlight reels for smart plays, potentially evolving into a defensive menace like Drew Holiday or Derek White. That comparison to established role players is the key here. Nobody on Paul George's level is promising Bronny will be a superstar, but they are saying he has the toolkit to be a legit rotation piece, which would make him a massive draft steal at 55th overall. When was the last time a pick that deep generated this much hysterical analysis and debate? Then you have the big diesel himself, Shaquille O'Neal, sliding in with a perspective that hits different. Having watched his own son, Sharif O'Neal, get crushed by the weight of a legendary surname, Shaq feels this struggle in his soul. In July 2024, during Bronny's brutal summer league nightmare averaging just 4.3 points, Shaq sent a simple, powerful message: keep playing hard, Bronny. Uncle Shaq loves you. But Shaq got real about the trauma in September 2024 on the Big Podcast, viewing Bronny's hell through his own family's lens. He called Bronny his nephew, praised his work ethic, but noted the crushing pressure, admitting his only wish is for Bronny to just be happy. That last part is critical. Shaq isn't talking hoops, he's talking mental health, joy, and surviving the weight of impossible expectations. His perspective got darker by June 2025 when he dropped a bomb about his own son's career. He confessed he doesn't want Sharif to play because the comparisons to him would be unfair, exactly like what Bronny is suffering through now. Let that sink in. One of history's most dominant players, who would die to see his son win, is so disturbed by the Bronny circus that he'd rather his own kid quit basketball. That is how toxic the scrutiny is. That is how unfair the comparisons are. Then there is Anthony Davis, Bronny's literal teammate, who sees the grind every single day. Unlike the TV talking heads or Twitter trolls, AD has a front row seat to the show, and what he's witnessed has clearly impressed him. He described Bronny hitting a three over him, sparking trash talk, then bullying a defender for a layup before drilling another three over Austin Reeves while demanding the ball. That practice sequence Davis leaked reveals everything about Bronny's confidence when he is comfortable draining threes over vets and hyping the squad. He was playing with the swagger that made him a McDonald's All-American initially. This is the Bronny Draymond Green is begging to see more of, the kid playing without fear, hesitation, or the crushing anxiety of being LeBron James' son. In October 2024, after preseason action, Davis offered specific praise, calling him tough, defensive-minded, and highlighting his screen navigation and active hands. These are the gritty attributes that make role players valuable: defense, toughness, IQ, and doing the dirty work. But the real emotion hit after Bronny's debut on October 23, 2024. Davis captured the locker room vibe, calling it a special moment where they desperately wanted his shot to fall. Even with 0 points in 3 minutes, his teammates were genuinely rooting for him and excited to be part of history. What all these defenders share is that they are grading Bronny against realistic expectations for a 55th pick. They aren't comparing him to his dad, they are comparing him to other late second-rounders who usually never play meaningful minutes. By that standard, if Bronny becomes a rotational defender, he has already exceeded the typical outcome for his draft slot. But trust me, not everyone in the NBA is singing Bronny's praises. However, not every legend is buying the hype. Some iconic voices have a totally different vibe, and their savage critiques cut deep. The critics. If you assumed every NBA player was blindly rallying around Bronny James, you simply haven't been paying attention to what the league's most unfiltered voices are screaming when they stop worrying about being politically correct. While the defenders preach patience and potential, the critics are delivering icy, brutal assessments based on the disaster they are actually watching on the court right now. And frankly, their perspective is just as vital to comprehend. Leading this charge is Charles Barkley, the Hall of Famer and TNT analyst who has never been afraid to spit uncomfortable facts. And Charles Barkley has been absolutely relentless in trashing how the Lakers are mishandling Bronny's growth. This isn't personal beef. It is basketball wisdom from a guy who has watched endless young players thrive or crash in this league. He insists the kid needs the G League to actually improve, arguing that sitting on the bench is useless. Charles Barkley thinks the history moment was cute, but for development, Bronny needs minutes, not courtside seats. Dan Patrick, you don't get better by watching. Barkley's stance is crystal clear and consistent. Bronny James is not ready for NBA speed, and keeping him on the Lakers roster strictly for home games while juggling him back and forth is doing him zero favors. In fact, Charles Barkley believes it is actively sabotaging his career. In November 2024, Barkley really went scorched earth on the Lakers' strategy. He called it awful, stupid, and unfair to the kid, labeling it a terrible look for both the franchise and LeBron James. That isn't a hot take built for clicks. That is an NBA legend who has monitored thousands of players over decades, expressing genuine alarm about a broken development plan. Think about what Barkley is actually saying here. He is arguing that the Lakers value the historic father-son photo op and the headlines it generates over what is actually best for Bronny's basketball survival. By March 2025, on the Dan Patrick Show, Barkley was still hammering the exact same point. Go to the G League, get reps, stop rotting on the bench. And here is the awkward reality. By mid-2025, as Bronny continued seeing garbage minutes while averaging a tragic 1.4 points per game, many analysts quietly admitted that Barkley's assessment had been accurate all along. The headlines essentially read, NBA legend Charles Barkley was proven right about Bronny James. Barkley's critique isn't rooted in hate or jealousy. It comes from understanding how brutal the NBA is and how critical those early years are. He sees a prospect with upside being thrown into a meat grinder, expected to contribute immediately while dealing with media scrutiny that no other 55th pick has ever endured. But Barkley isn't alone on this island. Kendrick Perkins, the former champ turned ESPN loudmouth, has walked a bizarre tightrope with his commentary. On one side, Perkins applauds the history. On the other, he stands by a principle that has apparently cost him some massive friendships. Perkins' mantra for Bronny is simple: it must be earned, not given. That became his war cry, his line in the sand. And in October 2025, Perkins exposed just how much that truth cost him personally. He admitted he lost friends, specifically Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James, because they were discussing Bronny and the draft. Let that sink in. Kendrick Perkins torched his brotherhood with three of the biggest icons in NBA history because he kept it real about Bronny's readiness. That is the steep personal tax of speaking truth in today's sensitive landscape. Perkins' critique wasn't even that savage. In May 2024, he predicted Bronny James could be a hell of a pro role player, just not his father. That is a reasonable take, praising his defense and IQ while managing expectations. But apparently, even that level of mild analysis was treason. The real drama exploded when Perkins called out ESPN's obsession, saying he was sick of the coverage and asking why a fringe prospect got more airtime than lottery picks. He even warned LeBron James to back off so the kid could earn his stripes in the trenches. That advice clearly didn't sit well, and the friendship fractured. Perkins later admitted he felt pressured by ESPN to keep talking about Bronny even when he wanted to stop. This entire mess reveals how dangerous it is for insiders to be honest about Bronny when there are legitimate professional consequences for doing so. Kevin Durant took a different lane, focusing on philosophy rather than readiness. Back in March 2023, Durant went on the ETC's podcast and wished Bronny would stay in college, citing USC as a great fit. Durant's logic was sound: college offers visibility and competition against peers rather than being fed to the wolves. Durant was prescient. Bronny picked USC, but by August 2024, after watching the struggles, Durant doubled down, saying the kid needed another year of school. That isn't hate. It is practical wisdom from a scorer who didn't want Bronny to disappear by taking a path that offered zero stage time. Even supportive voices added huge caveats. Austin Rivers, who survived being Doc Rivers' son in the league, offered the most empathetic warning on Undisputed. Rivers noted the unique pressure, asking when we have ever seen a 50-something pick get minutes on opening night. He bluntly stated Bronny would be better off not playing with LeBron James. Rivers isn't questioning talent, he is questioning the Lakers' toxic environment. He believes Bronny needs to forge his own ID away from the media circus that stalks his dad. Gilbert Arenas added another layer, arguing on his show that Bronny is too passive. Arenas claims Bronny needs to be selfish to earn minutes, echoing Draymond Green's advice to stop playing like he doesn't know the game. But the harshest vitriol came from commentators questioning if Bronny belongs at all. While we ignore the trolls, some voices have been brutal, calling him a lousy player, and predicting he will be a laughingstock who only got a roster spot via nepotism. They claim nobody would draft Bronny James without the name, suggesting he should have transferred or gone undrafted. That level of venom crosses the line, which is why guys like Chris Paul defend him so aggressively. There is a gap between honest analysis and bullying. However, the critics are forcing a necessary debate about readiness. Charles Barkley isn't saying Bronny will fail forever, he is saying this path is broken. Kendrick Perkins isn't saying Bronny doesn't deserve a shot, he is saying the shot should be earned by merit, not surname. The stats by November 2025: 1. 4 points in limited minutes versus solid G League production. Support the critics, he needs reps at a lower level. But this gets fascinating because the debate isn't just about hoops. It is a referendum on privilege, legacy, and fairness. And the locker room conversations about these themes are more revealing than the stats, the bigger picture. Strip away the numbers and draft slot, and you are left with something profound. A collection of NBA voices wrestling with heavy questions. What do you do when your name opens doors your resume hasn't earned? How do you develop when every error is viral? And what does it mean to chase dreams in the shadow of the GOAT? These are the real discussions. Magic Johnson brings a unique view, celebrating the history on social media but pivoting to hard truths in interviews. Magic congratulated the duo but then stated Bronny needs hard work and should tell his dad to let him play in the G League. Magic is essentially agreeing with Charles Barkley, just with a smile. He sees the G League as the path to becoming a rotation piece like Austin Reeves. Then there is Chris Paul, Bronny's godfather, who has zero patience for slander. CP3 claims anyone hating is just jealous, defending the kid's character and work ethic behind the scenes. That personal bond gives Chris Paul insight most analysts lack, and his defense shows how protective players are. Kenny Smith went further on Fox News, rebuking critics by listing Bronny's McDonald's All-American credentials, reminding everyone that scouts identified his elite talent before the cardiac arrest derailed his momentum. But no perspective hit harder than DeMar DeRozan, the Compton legend. On Podcast P, DeRozan hyped Bronny's potential but then exposed the NBA's dirty secret. When LeBron James tweeted that Bronny was better than some current players, DeRozan backed him up, admitting there is a lot of talent in the league. DeRozan kept it 100, estimating that 75 to 100 players absolutely stink, feeling entitled and lazy. By that standard, saying Bronny is better than the bums at the end of the bench isn't controversial, it's a fact. This reframes everything. If the league is full of frauds who don't work, a kid with a work ethic and elite pedigree deserves a shot. Finally, Shaquille O'Neal's evolving view on the father-son dynamic is crushing. Shaq admitted to professional jealousy, saying he knows he will never get this moment with his sons. His vulnerability highlights that for LeBron James, this isn't just a game, it's a life milestone. Anthony Davis captured the locker room's emotion, noting that despite the noise, witnessing that history is special. Bronny himself sounds mature, focusing on work ethic and coachability rather than shortcuts. The reality? NBA players know how hard it is to survive. They know 80% of second-rounders fail. They know talent needs luck. The truth is likely in the middle. Bronny James has potential, but the Lakers' hybrid plan is flawed. This is a unique experiment in legacy and scrutiny. The chatter reveals the league's values, pressures, and humanity as much as it does about one kid. And that might be the real story.